Alright, and we're back, everyone. It appears that while the price of oil is crashing, the Russians have decided to try and crash our stream again. But as y'all know, the Lee Spring Army is undefeatable, especially when we have our firewalls and our correct security measures set up. Due to some situations and some things that VPNs do, I actually had my VPN turned off the entirety of this stream, and it looks like with that firewall down and that protective barrier not helping us out, the Russians were able to DDoS us midstream and shut the thing down. The internet connections were fine, it got thrown completely off, and that was the end of it. So it looks like we got DDoSed again, but of course now we have the VPN on because I just noticed that, and we're going to make sure that they are not able to do that again. The Lee Spring Army is always rocking, always moving, and always working to make sure that this news continues to come out every single day, and we're going to make sure to do the best of our abilities to make that a reality. And so with that, we're going to help the price of oil become $30 a barrel by buying up all of the stocks around the world and selling them at flat rates. But with that, I hope that does answer the question about the oil if you are here from last time. And with that, we are now going to move on to the next question from the question segment that was left over from last time.
And also, Enforcer, real quick, I believe your screen sharing is turned off.
Let me see real quick. It should... it's on for me.
Okay, well, it must be an issue on my end. But with that being said, we are moving on to the next super chat. We have a $20 donation from Kaltenberg, who says, buy low and sell high. And that's very wise words from Kaltenberg, and always live by that too.
And incredibly wise words, Kaltenberg. I usually buy low and sell high. Usually, I buy the... I was trying to make a joke out of that, but honestly, I fell apart. I was trying to come up with one on the fly. But I thank you very much for the support, Kaltenberg. You've always helped us to keep this channel running, and those are certainly words to live by. And so with that, thank you once again so much for the support, Kaltenberg. You help these streams run nightly, and we're always greatly appreciative for it. Also, real quick, everyone, if y'all would like to help this stream to reach everyone who was just on the stream a minute ago, which was 6,300 people, make sure to hit that like button, and also start spamming in the chat. Now, I don't know if we have slow chat mode on yet. I wasn't able to see that. If we do, let's throw that off for a minute and just let the chat go wild. It helps out with our interactivity for a minute, which lets us get boosted in the algorithms for a short while, and then that helps people to come back. If they had been kicked off, they'll see another one's running. We also gave this one a different title, so that way it wouldn't be like a repeat notification where people might get confused. So with that, spam it. And with that, we are going to move on to the final question of this segment, and thank you once again, Kaltenberg, for helping us to keep this channel running. And so with that, on to the last question before we move on to our last bit of news.
And the last super chat of this segment goes to WF2U, who puts in a $20 donation, who cracked the message tonight, along with Mark Hodges as well, who also got the same thing. And WF2U said, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, the decoded message, Enigma M3, is And the Darwin Award goes to Russia.
Well, congratulations! You actually got the Enigma cipher and then translated the message that was done during the number station part of our stream. And so, congratulations! That's actually really impressive that you were able to do that. And I thank y'all so much for being dedicated Morse decryptors at this point, because it is actually encoded now. And that's really impressive to know that there's people out there who can do that. And so, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment. And ding, 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 we got a winner. So, with that, we are now out of this question segment. That was our final question of the segment. And we're now going to be moving on to the remainder of the news from the Donetsk region and the Southern Front. After we cover all of that news, we'll then be moving to Kyiv for the speech from President Zelensky. And after that, we'll be going through all of the questions that have been sent in tonight, all the super chats and as many live chats as possible. And after that, the stream will then end. Moving on into the Donetsk area, we have seen that the Russians have supposedly are fighting in Avdiivka, but whether you can call this fighting or not is a whole other question. Now, I gotta say this, I love how they play safari music at the beginning of this video. Like, it doesn't even sound like they're in a firefight, it sounds like they're in the wilds of Africa trying to hunt down a boar or a hippo or something. But you now see them firing an RPG. Once again, we don't see the Ukrainians, we don't see any evidence of them around. Now see them looking over the top of the trench, and of course firing wildly. We can see this guy doing the tactical duck, which everyone knows works incredibly well when you have a Bugs Bunny kind of bullet from Warner Brothers being fired at you. As you can see, the bullet slipped right over his head, right there. Look at that. The skill and the speed to know when to duck just like that. Only something a Russian will know. We now see the next guy firing from the exact same spot, and it appears that they don't understand the concept of not firing from the same spot for too long. We can't even hear the sounds of combat over the music. We can see the exact same guy getting up with the RPG again and firing it. And with that, that is the end of that video, and a pretty sad one from the Russians. That's why I put in the caption, fighting, question, like 3 question marks, because that's not really fighting. With that, we're now going to be moving down to the Kyiv airport, well, the Donetsk airport, where we've actually seen Russians still there, which shows that the Ukrainians have not pushed them out of the airport. But with that, here's the video. When you see them moving around one of the buildings near the airport. You now see artillery coming down on the exact building they're in, and I don't think they're very calm in there anymore. That's the end of the video, and kind of an interesting one to see. So with that, not really much to comment on there. It's pretty self-explanatory. We're now moving on to the next bit of location, well, Donetsk news, where we can see a picture of a Russian base on fire. We don't have a lot of information behind this, rather than this one reaction image in the comment section of this picture, but we can see in the city of Donetsk that some kind of a Russian base or some kind of Russian equipment caught on fire overnight, and it appears, based off of the picture, that the smoke may be black. So this may have been a vehicle that was hit somewhere in Donetsk and is now on fire. Once again, great to see. With that, we're now going to move into the center of Donetsk city, where we see a large explosion occurred in a theater today. We have no idea what caused this. It doesn't appear to be a missile strike, but with that, here's the video of the fire coming out of this building that has had some kind of explosion occur within it. We can also hear someone trying to drift in the background, because while this building is on fire, you gotta do it for the vine. With that, that's the end of that video, and with that, we've really covered all of the Donetsk news there is. It doesn't appear that major offensives are making any kind of ground in this area. We do know of multiple minor offensives, but they don't seem to be succeeding in any goal that they're trying to, I guess you could say, achieve. So with that, we're now going to move on towards the Berdyansk area, where we've seen a very sad video made by the FSB. They have captured Ukrainian partisans. And it's just terrible to see that Ukrainian partisans are being quashed out by the Russians at any given moment of the day. When you see this partisan right here near this car, and he's just doing something below it, very suspicious, very un-Russian. Now he's walking away. And when you see here, thank God that the SFB cameraman was standing right in front of this van at the very same moment that this other white van filled with SFB agents came running out and arrested the guy. Let's look at this video and see them in action, very swift and very brutally arresting this guy. Because if it, once again, if it wasn't for the cameraman standing right here, thank God there's always one that's standing right at the perfect place at the perfect time, we would have never seen this. I also like how the SFB soldier used the simple push on window technique. Usually, American cops and other people who have to bust windows are so weak they have to resort to using billy clubs to bust them open. But as we can see the Russian right here, he simply just puts his hand on the window, and the strength of his hand and the push from it alone is enough to burst this window outwards. Look at this. Amazing. Now we can see him, and of course, while the FSB is so fast and so brutal in their arresting operations, they still like to be incredibly civil and slowly put this man onto the ground, as you can see right there. In fact, they even gave him the opportunity to crouch down and then extend outwards instead of just flinging him to the ground. A very humane thing that the Russians have done here, and it shows how good the FSB is at their job. When you see them now putting him in almost an identical van. And that's the end of the video. Now, one thing that lets us all know that this is staged is, of course, the cameraman standing right in front. Also, the other thing is that you can literally see that they had the door open to the van slightly, so that way the cameraman could say, okay, go. So that way they could then hop out and start doing this whole entire little bit. It's once again another sad attempt at Russian propaganda, and I just gotta say, they never do a good job at it. With that, that's all the news we've gotten from Donetsk. Of course, this was staged. And so we're now going to be moving on to the next bit of news, which is in Nikopol, where we've seen the Russians dropping incendiaries on the town again. This is about the third time over the past 2 weeks. And so, here's the video. That's the end of the video, and once again, more evidence of Russian war crimes, and hopefully the Ukrainians will be able to hold them accountable. Well, that we're now finally in the Southern Front, which we didn't get a lot of news from today, and that's why it was just included in its normal clockwise schedule as the last bit we were going to be covering. But we did see today that a BM-27 Uragan did get obliterated by Ukrainian artillery today, and so here's the video. See the artillery coming down, and it looks like the Uragan exploded in a ball of fury. Uragans always make some of the most impressive explosions. With that, that's the end of the video, and it's great to see that they destroyed another Uragan. With that, we're now on into the Kherson area, where we've seen some pretty interesting news, and once again, something that is very typical of the Russians. The Russians are now using a hospital to store ammunition and military equipment. Pictures were taken of Russian soldiers outside of the Kherson hospital, if we can get to the Twitter, showing them unloading military equipment out of the back of this armored car and bringing it right into the hospital. And of course, it's geolocated right there. And once again, not really surprising by the Russians that they would do something like that, but still, it's worth noting. So if you see the Ukrainians slamming HIMARS down into the Kherson City Hospital anytime soon, now you know why. We're now going to be moving into the town of Mykolaiv, where we've actually seen the Ukrainian SBU, unlike the FSB, actually arresting someone who has been committing pretty much treason against Ukraine. This man has been alleged to be giving away the positions of Ukrainian forces and Ukrainian supplies, and being practically a spotter for the Russian armed forces. He's now been arrested and is in custody, and most likely will be facing punishment for his crime against the country. With that, we're now finally moving into our final bit of news, which may be one of the biggest bits tonight, where we saw a Russian ship burning in the distance off the coast of Ukraine. We're not exactly sure what kind of ship it is, and we're going to wait a little bit before we give official confirmation on this news, but it is pretty nice to see that there is a Russian ship burning out there in the distance. With that, that is the end of the video, and it's always great to see that the Russians just never get a break. That ship will probably be joining the Moskva in the special underwater operation. With that, we have covered all of the news from the southern front in the Donetsk area, and so now we are going to return to Kyiv to pull up the President of Ukraine's office. President of Ukraine. And then we go down to the website for the office, and then we go to the videos. Video collection. Then we go to this one here. And here's the speech from President Zelensky here on day 162, as he summarizes what has happened today and what the Ukrainian government is doing. And so without further ado, here's the speech from President Zelensky.
Українці, українки, сьогодні російські терористи нанесли черговий удар по Торецько-Донецькій області, по зупинці громадського транспорту. 8 людей загинуло, серед поранених 3 дітей. Уламками снарядів та вибуховою хвилею пошкоджені житлові будинки. Це звичайні багатоповерхівки. Також пошкоджена церква, Свято-Пантелеймонівський храм. Священик поранений. Це був свідомий удар окупантів. Черговий акт терору, цинічний і прорахований. Вони знали, куди б'ють і, очевидно, хотіли, щоб люди постраждали. Проте, щодо цього і тисяч інших злочинів російських терористів, ми не бачимо чітких і вчасних звітів від деяких міжнародних організацій. Ми побачили сьогодні зовсім інший звіт від Amnesty International, який, на жаль, пробує амністувати державу-терориста і перекласти відповідальність з агресора на жертву. Немає і не може бути навіть гіпотетично жодної умови, за якою будь-який російський удар по Україні стає виправданим. Агресія проти нашої держави є нічим не спровокованою, загарбницькою і відверто терористичною. І якщо хтось робить звіт, в якому жертва і агресор нібито в чомусь однакові, якщо аналізуються якісь дані про жертву, а що робив агресор в цей час ігнорується, то з цим не можна миритись. Майже 200 одних лише релігійних споруд, храмів і молитвених будинків різних конфесій пошкоджено або зруйновано російськими ударами. Майже 900 медичних закладів, більше 2200 освітніх закладів, десятки університетів, сотні шкіл і дитячих садочків. Окупанти неодноразово свідомо били з артилерії та мінометів по чергах людей за водою, по евакуаційних автобусах, неодноразово били по зупинках громадського транспорту. Російська армія не зупинялась перед ударами навіть по меморіалах жертвам Голокосту, по кладовищах, по табору з військовополоненими в Оленівці. І звітів про це чомусь немає. Ось така аморальна вибірковість. Кожен, хто амністує Росію і хто штучно створює такий інформаційний контекст, що якісь удари терористів є нібито виправданими або нібито зрозумілими, не може не усвідомлювати, що цим допомагає терористам. А якщо такі маніпулятивні звіти, то і відповідальність за загибель людей поділяєте з ними. Щодня розширюємо можливості нашої зовнішньої політики, формальної і неформальної. Поспілкувався сьогодні з представниками африканських ЗМІ з Нігерії, Південної Африки, Кенії, Гани. Африканські країни можуть дуже серйозно постраждати через спровоковану Росією дестабілізацію світових ринків і глобальних відносин, зокрема через продовольчу кризу. І при цьому в Африці є дефіцит правдивої інформації про російську війну проти нашої держави і профіцит російської пропаганди. Зробимо все, щоб змінити цей баланс. Відбулись перші в історії наших двосторонніх відносин переговори з президентом Гвінеї-Бісау. Я зазначив, що Україна готова бути гарантом продовольчої безпеки для африканських країн. Обговорили підтримку нашої держави в міжнародних організаціях. Завтра нові переговори з лідером африканської країни. І загалом тільки останнім часом ми започаткували належну комунікацію з 8 лідерами держав Африки. Щоденно і різними способами нагадую деяким лідерам Євросоюзу, що не можна робити заручниками їхньої нерішучості або бюрократизму українських пенсіонерів, наших переселенців, наших вчителів та інших наших людей, які залежать від бюджетних виплат. 8 мільярдів євро для України наразі загальмовані. І така штучна затримка макрофінансової допомоги для нашої держави – це або злочин, або помилка. І складно сказати, що з цього гірше у таких умовах повномасштабної війни. Яка європейська країна зараз гальмується, називати не хочу. Будемо вірити, що це все ж таки помилка і що її буде виправлено. Провів сьогодні засідання Ставки Верховного Головнокомандувача. Міністр оборони України Олексій Резніков доповів щодо поточного забезпечення військ технікою і боєприпасами. Доповідали також главком Залужний, керівник СБУ Малюк, міністр внутрішніх справ Монастирський. Проаналізували ситуацію на найбільш гострих ділянках фронту, зокрема в Донецькій області. Окрему увагу приділили стану виконання попередніх рішень Ставки. Всі вони мають виконуватись на 100%. Підписав черговий указ про нагородження наших воїнів. 192 учасника бойових дій відзначені державними нагородами, із них 6 посмертно. Загалом вже більш ніж 25,5 тисяч наших захисників нагороджені за хоробрість і результативність в боях з 24 лютого. Більше 4 тисяч посмертно. Вічна пам'ять усім, хто загинув за Україну, вічна вдячність кожному і кожній, хто воює проти російських терористів. Слава Україні!
With that, that is the end of the speech from President Zelensky, and that rounds out our Day 162 news summary. If you were here for the news alone, which a lot of y'all, of course, came back for, I thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all did enjoy. We'll now be moving into the question segment for the rest of the night, and so, if you were just here for the news, I thank you so much for watching. It's always a pleasure to be able to report the news to y'all and let y'all know what's going on in the war, and to keep on covering it every single day of the week, except for Mondays. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into the question segment. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right. And first up for our final question segment, we have a $50 super chat from Kimberly Brokaw, who does not leave a comment. But Kimberly, we appreciate your support very much, and we appreciate all your kind words in the comments as well. And thank you so very much. And as I'm sure you know, the Enforcer would like to add some to that as well.
Of course, and I want to thank you so much, Kimberly. I always see you in the live chat, often talking to everyone in the Lee Spring Army and us as well, and I've got to thank you so much for always being a Lee Spring Army member and for enjoying this stream heavily. This support helps us out greatly. I mean, like, there's, and I say this often, and I'm always trying to emphasize how grateful we are to everyone who helps us to keep this thing going, because without y'all's support, it literally would not be possible. So I got to thank you so much. It helps us out a great deal, and I hope that does address the super chat, and thank you once again. And so with that, we are now on to the next one, and thank you once again, Kimberly.
And next up, we have a $20 super chat from Will Riley, also known as Dick Cheney, who says, Mr. Cheney thinks that let me start over because I just made a word salad there. He said, Mr. Cheney thinks that refitted Iowa-class battleships with 16-inch GPS-guided shells, new propulsion systems, Mr. Cheney likes nuclear, sensors and weapons system would make one hell of a weapons platform, bring back the mighty Mo.
It's an interesting concept, and I think Dick Cheney, of course, for his comments. But one thing that's always interesting to me about the battleship is that I think they're just really beyond their usefulness. It was a real big stretch to have them used in the Gulf War, and I just think that modern war has moved on so far, and the range of weapons has become so mind-bogglingly large that it's almost impossible to really seriously use a battleship in any kind of situation in the modern day. Still, they did get used in the Gulf War, largely as a cruise missile carrier, kind of like a modern ship would be. So I thank you very much for the support, Will Riley. It is an interesting idea, but I'm not really sure if they would be usable in a modern war like that anymore. But thank you once again. It's an interesting point, and there can be an argument out there made whether a battleship is still usable in a modern war or not. Of course, not in its original form, but heavily modified and upgraded to pretty much use modern weapons almost entirely. But thank you so much once again. It's a really cool concept, and I have a friend who's big into that kind of idea, and so I hope that does answer the comment, I guess you could say. And thank you so much once again, Will Riley, for supporting this channel and also throwing in something interesting right there. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for support, Will Riley, and being a longtime member of the Lee Spring Army.
And next up, we have a $20 super chat from George A. and a $10 super chat from Junebug with the 72 at the end. So thank you very much to both of you. They don't leave comments, but we appreciate the support nonetheless. And Enforcer, I have a feeling you have something to say about those as well.
And yes, I have to thank all of y'all for your support, and I thank both of y'all so much for helping this channel to keep on running. And hopefully, we will be making more videos in the future on different topics. I have been looking into making one today. I tried to write up a little bit of a script on it, but sat there and was like, yeah, maybe later a little bit. But I am looking into trying to make a video on a possible invasion of Taiwan and how feasible that would really be. Of course, you know, that kind of throws me into the armchair general category as, you know, of course, a lot of people will come out of the woodwork since it'll be a different format of video and most likely will reach a new audience. And they'll be like, oh, you have no military experience, because they might watch these streams. And yeah, I have no military experience, but still, I think it would make an interesting video to talk about what at least is known about Taiwan and how difficult it may actually be for the Chinese to do anything like that. And so with that, I hope that does answer the well, at least address the super chats, and I thank y'all both so much for the support, and I hope y'all are looking forward to everything we might be doing in the future. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much for the support.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Salty Ho, who says, as an ex-officer of the ROC Army, I would really appreciate it if Enforcer supports selling Taiwan more modern equipments when you can tweet us as POTUS. Only the U.S. stands up for Taiwan against China.
And I thank you so much for the support, Salty. Salty
Ho.
I'm going. Well, we'll say that Salty Ho, but I was just kind of scared there for a second. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that sounds like something else. But you know, then again, there's sometimes similarities like that. But to address that, that is really cool to hear that you are an ex-officer of the Republic of China's military. Also, I would, if I was the president of the United States, I would highly support selling Taiwan more modern equipment. Y'all are using a whole bunch of aging stuff down there. And so, yes, I would, of course, as president, make sure to provide more modern arms and equipment to the Taiwanese so that way they can better defend their island or look like a bristling hedgehog in the sea that the Chinese would not even threaten to invade. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, Salty Ho, and I thank you so much once again for the support and helping us to keep this channel running. And so with that, I got to thank you once again. The name, I know it may actually be...
And I hope we aren't being trolled on that one, because I see a lot of people making jokes, but if that is your actual name, please forgive us for cracking a laugh or two. It just has a resemblance to something in the USA that means something totally different.
It kind of... I won't make too much comment on it. It may actually be your name. Just let us know if it is or isn't. If it's a joke, we'll get a good laugh out of it. But thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope that was able to answer the question. And also, thank you so much for being an officer of the Republic of China. That's really interesting, and you are defending Taiwan and helping it to remain free, and also helping those computer chips to flow. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Jungle Jim AB9AB, who says, Enforcer, will the plummeting price for a barrel of oil have an immediate effect on the Russian war effort? By December 22, it's predicted to drop below $60. And I think we actually covered that a little bit earlier, but this is actually a little bit of a different question. But I just have to ask everybody in the live chat, do y'all remember a short while ago when people were actually paying to get rid of oil because it was worth literally negative dollars? That was crazy.
I remember that actually too, and that was kind of a weird time. But yes, oil may continue to drop in price. It's something, though, that's hard to predict out that far. Much like a war, it's kind of trying to look into a crystal ball, and it may not continue on that path forever. It may stop around the 70s or the 60s. well, the mid 60s or the high 60s. No one's really sure, but still, if it did drop that low by December of 2022, I would certainly say that the Russians will be definitely suffering in their economic situation, because they have to continue to let the oil flow. There's really no way that they can threaten the rest of the world with that, because that's the only way they're making any kind of income to keep their war coffers filled, so that way they can keep this war going on. So in that regard, I think that may help them, well, may help the rest of the world to help the Russians to end this silly and nonsensical war that they've gotten themselves into. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and I thank you so much for the support. And that was a really good question too. We answered it a little bit earlier, but still a great one at that, considering the current situation. And so with that, we are moving on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
And thank you very much. And just real quick, I had to get rid of a troll there that I suspected was a troll, but now they are officially gone. So congratulations to you. And goodbye, bot.
Now, I would like to say this real quick before we move on from this one. Rocket's Red Wines, the person who we just banned, has been on this channel before and has actually supported us. But I got to say this. I don't know why people come out of the woodworks and act like they can start dictating to us what our channel can and cannot do. Because I actually was
watching... Actually, Enforcer, I will add real quick. They've actually been in here before and said questionable things, but it was hard to tell exactly what they were doing. But now it's obvious that they're in here to sow division, and they have been a bot the entire time. And it's weird because they have supported the channel, but at the same time, they try to say things to sort of divide everyone and get everybody riled up. So pretty interesting tactic by the bot that time, but go ahead.
But one thing I'd like to say is that I, of course, love that people do enjoy this channel. But one thing I've learned through the experience of running this is that no one will ever have the chance to actually dictate to me and have the power to tell me what I will do, what I won't do, what my own rules will be on stream. I made that mistake way early on with a group of moderators. Y'all may remember the Great Schism if y'all have been around long enough. And I learned that that is a huge mistake, because then I don't even run my own channel. I'm nothing more than a puppet for someone else. And so in the particular case of Rocket Red Wine, which I've been watching the whole entire discourse in between Matthew and them go on for a while, no one's going to tell me what I can do with my channel and what kind of rules I have. That's one thing that I'm going to say definitively. And so if you see something wrong, if you see something you don't like, not wrong, but something you don't really necessarily agree with my comments or the way they're made, you can, of course, be like, hey, I don't like that. But if you're going to sit here and be like, I'm going to use your own rules against you, that's not going to fly. I come up with the rules on this channel. I've been enforcing my own rules for 162 days, and it's going to remain that way until the end of time. So, if you, all I got to say, and I don't mean for this to come off as rude or threatening or anything, but if you don't like the channel or something that we're doing, then it's tough luck at that. So I hope everyone understands. Wanted to address that one real quick, because it of course was a bot, and if a bot wants to come in here and try and tell us how to run our channel, then we'll see you out. And so with that, we're on to the next one, and I just wanted to address that one for a moment because I saw what you were dealing with there, Matthew, and I was like, gee, that would be incredibly annoying if I was the one having to do that. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
Yeah, and Enforcer, I will add that we don't simply ban people from the channel for saying their opinions or their suggestions, even if it's criticism. I'll respond to it and say we'll take it under advisement. But in this case, the person was saying it over and over and over again. They weren't listening to what I was saying, and that's typical behavior of a bot. So without harping on that anymore, we are moving on to the next super chat, which is from none other than Sweaty Chungus, who puts in a $10 donation and says, what do you picture this war looking like if it stretches into deep winter?
If it stretches into deep winter, it's most likely going to be the Russians will be taking heavy losses. I'm not really sure if they'd be losing ground. They may be at that point because the war will have gone on for so long, and with the equipment losses they're taking right now, I just don't see where they can last incredibly long. So we may see them being pushed back at this point and taking heavy losses just because the Rasputitsa will have set in. But at that point, the ground will be solidifying into kind of a, not really a permafrost, because it doesn't last year-round in that area, I don't believe. But still, the ground will have solidified enough, because it will have gotten cold enough So the Russians may begin in the deep winter to start another defensive and maybe try and hold on to their ground until the spring comes when they're in pretty much the same situation as the fall and early winter. So I hope that kind of gives a perspective, at least terrain-wise and weather-wise, what the Russians and their defensive positions may look like off of those reasons. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question. And I saw Sour Vodka say that in the live chat. It said, and with that, and that was the perfect timing. So I hope that has answered the question, and I thank you very much for the support. And once again, take my opinions with a grain of salt. I base them off of our experience and knowledge that we've gotten off of this war, and also what I knew before the war based off of historical precedent and evidence, but there's always the chance that it can be wrong. But with that, we're on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
All right, and up next we have a $10 super chat from Greaser Bub, the original, who says, Matt, this is for your 556 ammo fund, LMAO. And thank you very much, Greaser, for the support of the ammo fund. I will make sure to stock up on some of that lead there and put it in our big old pile of it. So thank you very much for that. And moving on to the next one, we have a $10 super chat from Michael Cabrera, who says, Hi, fellas, no more lawyer jokes. Here's a politician joke. Why are politicians like baby diapers? Both need to be changed constantly and are usually full of crap.
Well, and thank you very much for the support, Michael Cabrera. And it looks like you're going around and hitting all the bases with attorneys and politicians, really going the full gamut there. But still, I thank you so much for the support. And on that comment, it's not really weighing in on politics. It's not really pointing out a specific person. So I would have to say, pretty good one at that. I like that. So thank you so much for the support, Michael Cabrera. I do like those kinds of jokes that take the piss out of really anyone associated with the legal or political world. I think it's something that kind of just keeps a good banner going. But with that, thank you once again so much for the support and the good joke. I like the jokes you put out. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Melissa Harden, who says, My daddy was in the 1st Marine Division during World War II and brought home one of the leaflets from the war. It told Japanese troops how to surrender, and I still have it.
That is really cool, actually. We actually have a Filipino peso from the Japanese occupation of the Philippines in World War II, which is a pretty cool thing. But still, I think a propaganda leaflet is far cooler than just than a single peso. And so, with that in mind, I've got to say that is probably one of the coolest things I've heard about anything that happened in World War II, especially with the propaganda leaflets. What's most interesting about that, though, is that they were probably pretty ineffective because the Japanese rarely ever surrendered because it wasn't, everyone's always talking about the Bushido Code and that the Japanese were bound to principles of honor and wouldn't surrender for that. They would rather die fighting. They would rather die fighting because the Japanese government had brainwashed the public in Japan to think that the West would, if they were prisoners, take them and torture them. They would rape women. They would commit all kinds of nasty atrocities against them. And so it was far better to die fighting than to end up being captured. And that was really the reason why the Japanese were bent and determined to keep fighting even when they were going to just get slaughtered. It's kind of interesting, actually, because it goes against what most people think. But with that, I thank you so much for the support. And once again, the Bushido Code did play a role in the war in some ways, like with kamikaze pilots, although that's still a little bit questionable, but sometimes people were just forced into that role. But still, I hope that does answer the question, and well, at least address the comment, and I thank you very much for the support. That is a really cool little souvenir that you got, and I don't know about y'all, but I wish that in modern wars these days, the U.S. military was allowed to bring back souvenirs from the war, like in Afghanistan, because I heard of all kinds of incredible things that were in Afghanistan that were never able to be returned, like Martini Henrys and other kinds of weapons that had wound up in Afghanistan and Americans had ended up capturing, but they weren't allowed to return home with them as souvenirs because of all the I guess you could say red tape that surrounds that these days. I feel like it takes away from war in a way, that you can't take stuff like that home as souvenirs. I'm not talking about just random stuff like looting someone's house and taking a nice medallion or something like that. I'm talking about stuff off of other soldiers, like patches, weapons, gear, and other things like that. I still think that that's something we should be able, the U.S. military should allow to happen, because it, just lets people to get a little bit of something extra out of their service and having to go through that sort of stuff. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment entirely, and with that, we're on to the next one.
And next up, we have a $20 super chat from Volodymyr Yaskulka, who puts in a $20 donation and says, "Hey, thanks for your work. Every Ukrainian appreciates what you do."
And thank you so much for the support. And I'm glad that you do enjoy what we're doing here. We try and report as much as we can. The original intent was to let Ukrainians know where the military was, and now it's kind of evolved into just letting the world know what's going on and continuing to raise support for Ukraine. And so I thank you so much for your support, and I'm glad that you do enjoy what we're doing. I would assume, based off of your name, which sounds very Ukrainian, that you are Ukrainian as well, and I'm highly honored to think that we are doing a service to y'all in some way in reporting the news and also continuing our Sunday fundraisers. And so with that, I hope that does answer the comment, and I thank you so much once again for the support, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Michael Cabrera, once again, who says, "Enforcer and Matt, like you, I also work 6 days a week, and my day off is today. I really like attending your live stream from beginning to end, and keep up the outstanding work, guys." And Michael, I hope that you were able to join us on the second stream, since the VPN was down. Unfortunately, the last one was got by the Russians, but thank you very much for the support.
Well, I thank you so much for the support, Michael, and it is cool to hear that you've gotten your day off. Having to work 6 days a week is pretty strenuous, regardless, I would assume, of what job you work. Of course, manual labor is going to be a lot more difficult than doing this, but this, especially when the short summary videos were included, was incredibly exhausting. It still is a little tiresome to do just because college is now picked up, and now I'm doing that in the background a lot. I had to do something and knock it out before stream today with college, but still, it's something I definitely understand and completely appreciate. And I'm glad that you are on your day off, and I hope you had an incredibly relaxing day and you're ready to go at it for 6 days again. Also, I thank you so much for, of course, making your weekly pilgrimage to the stream and, of course, watching it live. A lot of people love to do that over time. Some people will catch the stream after it's aired. Some people, of course, catch it live, and you're one of those people tonight. And so congratulations once again, and thank you so much for the support, Michael, and helping us to be able to keep these streams running. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from William Allen, who says, "Well, the USMC used them in DS. They rolled over their objectives just like the M1s did. Even though I'm an AF guy, the USCM did the Bartman in Kuwait. I've got pictures and 2 Iraqi helmets as proof."
Well, I thank you so much for the support. It is cool to hear that you were able to bring back war souvenirs from the Gulf War. And also, can you reread that one real quick from the start?
He said, "The USMC used them in DS. They rolled over their objectives just like the M1s did. Even though I'm an AF guy, the USCM did the Bartman in Kuwait. I've got pictures and 2 Iraqi helmets as proof."
Okay, so now that I know what you're talking about, I had to make sure I got the context correct here. Yes, that is true. There were M60A3s being used in the Gulf War, and I did say that earlier. I did say it was mostly M1 Abrams, and those things have been phased out by that point, but there probably were some still working in reserve units, or maybe a couple of units on the front. So yes, it is true, and largely, whenever that kind of exception is made, it's almost always made for the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps has a massive esprit de corps and a wonderful looking dress uniform, but one problem that they've always had is that they're almost always underfunded and they're using older stuff. So I was assuming when I made that statement, although I didn't know it hardcore at that point, that it probably would have been the United States Marine Corps that was still using M60A3s, because I think that they were still using Sheridan light tanks in the Gulf War as well. That may have also been the Army, but I'm not entirely sure. But moving on from that, that is really cool to hear, and I'm glad that you did get 2 Iraqi helmets to show, and hopefully one of them was the Darth Vader helmet. Of course, those things were so rare, and I bet neither of those helmets are, but if they were, you've definitely got yourself a collector's piece, because those things were pretty cool. And so with that, I hope that has addressed the comment, and thank you once again for the support and sharing that little bit of information with us. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Jimmy the Third, who says, "Talk about Russian trains and supply."
Russian trains and supply. So we're going to start off with the very beginning of the railroad in the Russian Empire. I'm just kidding. We're going to move forward to the present day. So, Russian railroads and supply. The Russians revolve around railroad logistics far more than any other country in the world. In fact, they have something like 10 railroad logistics divisions that their entire focus is the operation of Russian army locomotives and building railroads for these locomotives to operate off of. It's a very antiquated system. It's antique practically in its implementation, I guess you could say, and how it's actually used. Because unlike roads, which there's an abundant amount of these days, and you can use multiple paths to disperse your supply traffic over multiple networks, a railroad is much more rare than a road, and so there's not really a lot of areas you can spread that out on, and so it makes it very easy to know where the Russian supply corridors are. You just have to look for the railroads, the railheads, and the rest sorts itself out. The Russians, on top of that, they supply most of their front lines by the railroad. There's no air transport involved. There's not a lot of road transport beyond the railheads themselves near the front. It's all done by rail up to that point nearly. And so I hope that kind of answers it a little bit. We can try and pull up some extra information like Russian rail, Russian military railroad, Russian military train Ukraine. Maybe that'll show something. Russian railroad logistics. Rail transport in Russia. The most important railway lines in Russia. Well, it's good to know that they're labeled on a map. Let's see. Let's scroll down. History. Look, it's Lenin's train. Wow. It's very red. It's like a communist was in that thing. Let's see here if we can find anything about the military's railway infrastructure. Russian military railroad rail. I don't know. Well, let's type this in and see if we can get anything on this. Russian railway troops. We found it. Oh, you can see here a picture of them taken in 2002. Neat. So let's see what we can read about these guys. They're involved in ensuring the defense of Russia. Well, I would say what they're doing right now is definitely not defending Russia. Railway troops perform a task as the oldest such force in the world, established in 1851 as a unit in the engineering corps of the Imperial Russian Army. Let's see here. Railway troops, decree. Wow, they don't really have a history. Organization. Let's see. I want to read this for a second. The Federal Railway Troops Service was abolished, and its functions transferred to the Russian Ministry of Defense. The provisions of the decree concerning the Federal Railway Troops of the Russian Federation entered into force after entry into force of the federal law, while force was used twice there. In 2004, the troops became subordinated to the Russian Armed Forces Rear Service. So pretty much that's some restructuring of the military to try and make it a little bit more efficient. Now, let's get to the information here that is most important. We can see in Yekaterinburg, which we've seen a lot of action from, the 43rd Separate Railway Brigade. Equipment. At the disposal of railway troops are complex, high-performance machines and tools. This almost seems like a Russian propaganda sales pitch. Advanced design and equipment for rehabilitation and construction of railways. The complex includes track machines, pile driving and blasting equipment, overhead traveling cranes, railway cranes, collapsible structure and support, inventory collapsible trestle, specialized equipment floating bridges, and armored trains. We know that they're definitely winning wars. So pretty much they're there to build railroads. That's the whole entire point of the Russian railroad, the railway troops of the Russian armed forces. And so you can see that it means a lot to them that they literally have within their military a railroad logistics unit. So with that, I hope that does answer the question, at least in a way. That was a very broad topic just to ask me to speak about, and I hope I was able to answer it fairly well. But I do thank you so much for the support. It was a great thing to cover, and I hope I was able to give it at least a little bit of services to the archaic system of these railway troops. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And next up, we have a $5 super chat from Eduardo Gonzalez, who says, how is the current situation in the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant? Russians using it as a safe base while shooting at Ukrainian defenders.
They are using it as a safe base for their ammunition. We have seen the Ukrainians strike nearby to it and hit something, but it does seem like they're firing from Nikopol, to Nikopol from Inohordar. So that is something true. I would largely have to say it's a precarious situation, but we haven't seen the Ukrainians, of course, because they are smarter than the Russians, firing directly onto the power plant, unlike what the Russians did when they were trying to take it. So I hope that explains the situation, at least in a way. I can't really explain it all too well because the actual information I've been getting around it is a little bit sketchy and sometimes contradicts itself. So I hope I've been able to give at least a decent picture of what's going on there right now that we've been able to confirm. And with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope I've been able to answer the question fairly well. And I'm sorry if I'm stuttering over my words, everyone. Tonight, for some reason, the busy nitro cold brew didn't do anything for me, and so I've been suffering on the suffer bus here for a little bit. But with that, we're on to the next one, and I thank you so much for the support.
And next up, we have a $20 super chat from Susie Q, who says, get you some coffee, canned bread, pizza. It's your choice. Your streams are my nightly ritual. Mondays, I feel weird, but I know you need a break. I've learned loads about history and ammo from you. That's a good one. And love you, support Ukraine.
And I thank you so much, Susie Q, for the support. It helps us out a great deal. And also, I would honestly, with that $20 right now, I'm starving on top of everything. I don't mean to make a sympathy trip for myself or anything, but I'm starving and I would love some pizza right now. I could kill a pizza. But so that would definitely be my choice if I was given the option out of those three. And I thank you so much for enjoying these streams. I love that it is a nightly ritual for a lot of people that want to get on here and watch these streams. It really makes me wonder with how these streams are, and how a lot of people just enjoy getting on here like it's nightly news. If a lot of people would enjoy just watching these streams if we covered worldwide news when this war ends. Now, I want to make this clear before we get the chat going wild. When the war ends. As long as this war is going on, this stream will always be about Ukraine primarily. We may include, like we've done before, a couple of small side special segments, like on the Serbian-Kosovo situation and on China and Taiwan, but by and large, we're going to be talking only about Ukraine. So once this war ends, I'm wondering, since a lot of people enjoy this so much, is this something we could do after the war on worldwide news? Maybe still run Sunday fundraisers for nonprofits concerning some of the stories we're covering, because I honestly think that would be pretty interesting. I don't know if we would do it 6 days a week like we're doing right now, maybe 5 days a week. We may even make it where it's Monday to Friday, and I know that it cuts out the weekends when a lot of people are home and probably enjoying their weekends off, but y'all have got to remember, I don't have weekends right now, and I would honestly love to imagine the time that I will really have a weekend. But I still enjoy covering this war and know that it is providing a massive service to everyone out there, and we're going to keep it going for that reason alone. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, and I thank you so much once again for the support, Susie Q. And I love that you've learned loads about history. I don't know everything about history, and sometimes I do get the facts a little wrong, and we do correct it immediately after we get them wrong. But I do thank you so much for enjoying it. I'm glad that you've learned a lot about history and ammo, and I thank you so much for enjoying our support for Ukraine, as it will never end until this war is over, and it will keep on going even during their reconstruction. And so with that, I hope that answers every single bit of the comment, Susie Q. Thank you once again, and we're on to the next one.
And next up, I want to give a shout out to Kashazel for putting in a $2 super chat without a comment. Thank you very much for your support. And for our final super chat of the night, we have a $5 donation from Yuri Bench, who says, good morning from Tel Aviv.
And good morning to you in Tel Aviv. It's really cool to hear that you're back again, and it looks like you wanted to remind me that you're from Tel Aviv. Now, something I've never looked at is, what's Tel Aviv look like in a street view? I don't know if y'all have that allowed in Israel. Sometimes privacy laws do not allow for that kind of stuff. But let's drop down on a major thoroughfare through the town, and let's see what it looks like. So let's see here. This looks like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a lot to compare with Israel. I don't know if this is a good side of town or a bad side of town. But here in Birmingham, this would be considered, the kind of a, I don't know. We're just going to keep on moving down the street. We're going to take a look. Let's move closer to the beach. Like down here near this big roundabout. Let's take a look at this. Wow, that's a giant roundabout. You know what's one thing that's always weird to me about arid environments is that you don't have a lot of grass, you know? And grass is beautiful, but at the same time you don't want to soak up a whole bunch of water in the middle of an arid environment trying to keep some grass alive. But it's still crazy to see that kind of stuff, you know, coming from Alabama where everything's always green. Also nice spruce tree, I like that. So Tel Aviv looks fairly okay. I mean, like there's it looks like, of course, like in every town, there's some rough places and some nice places, but it looks like the closer you get to the beach, the nicer it gets. And I have to say, they keep up the shrubbery and the medians a lot better than some places in Birmingham do here in Alabama. So I have to thank you so much for the support. It is cool to hear that it is morning in Tel Aviv, and I hope you've been enjoying our stream so far. So with that, we're going to move on to the next one. And also that kind of raises the question, what does Jerusalem look like? Because you know, all the craze is always about Jerusalem. If you're a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim, that's pretty much where it all began for everyone. And so everyone's always wanting to fight and kill for this place. So I wonder what this looks like, because I've never looked at it on Street View. Oh, wow. There's like, it's crazy. There's conifers everywhere. Actually looks kind of nice. It looks like, looks kind of like Colorado in a way. I don't know why, but I'm kind of getting like a Colorado Springs feel from this. Let's see. I want to hang on. This, I'm assuming, this has got to be the older part of the city. You can kind of see where it most likely has a city wall. But yes, it does. It actually has a city wall around it. Hang on. I want to. Ah, dang it! It's a tunnel. Get out. Get out. I want to see the wall. Maybe right here. Wow, that's cool. It's actually a city wall. Didn't know Jerusalem kind of had like an old quarter to the city, but that would make a lot of sense. Let me drop down in here, and I want to see this. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm kind of going through here and looking at... Well, this is... Wait a minute. What's this? Matthew, what is this? If the guy...
Wait a minute. I just looked up from looking at the chat. Where is this?
This is in Jerusalem.
This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. There's a SpongeBob plush right there. Some questionable flags.
We got a flag.
Let's see here.
Let's talk about each one of these countries and what's going on. Sri Lanka, riots. Brazil, rampant crime. Egypt, they're building a brand new city in the middle of the desert so that way people can't rise up against the government. Germany, deadly reliant on Russian oil. Romania, and they're doing Romanian things. Spain, Spanish things. Turkey, who knows what Turkey's really doing. They're doing a lot of stuff, but none of it makes sense. France, they're always having something going on. And then we have... Oh, man, I forgot these two flags. Sorry about that, everyone, but still. And then we have some Disney stuff. This store doesn't make any sense, but it looks like it's in some kind of a marketplace. Wow, this is a very busy market. And it's in the old city, so I'm assuming that that entire little road that they took the Google Street View of is part of the old city. Let's go here. This place is really interesting. This is what you would imagine like a... I guess you could say like a Middle Eastern market to look like. This looks like something that Bald and Bankrupt would travel through. And I haven't seen a lot of markets like this. We don't have anything like this in the States. And so if this is normal for some of y'all living around the world... Please forgive us and kind of like our bewilderment and interest in this because this is something we don't see here in the United States. But with that, we're now going to move on to the next question, and I thank you so much for the support, and I'm glad that we could take a moment to look at your home country of Israel. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we actually have one more super chat. This time we have a $50 super chat from Trademarks and Patents for Growing Businesses, one of our channel legends who's been around forever, who says, what are your thoughts about China potentially seizing or invading some of the Taiwanese islands that are just off the coast of China's mainland? Example, Kinmen County Island. How would Taiwan respond? How would the U.S. respond? And what would be the economic or trade consequences?
Let's see here. I want to make sure I know the correct island. Here's Pinggu County. There's the Wangan Township, the Kimi Township. Let's see here. What's the exact name of that one? Kinmen County Island. Let's pull that up. Kinmen County Island. Oof. That is literally like mainland China. I mean, like, no, it's not mainland China. Of course, they have jurisdiction over Kinmen County Island. But, geez, that is literally just... I don't even understand how the People's Republic of China didn't take this in the Civil War itself. Let's go down to Street View and take a look at this place. I'm always interested in what these places actually look like. Interesting. Some kind of an arch right here. I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was part of the Republic of China. But if they did something like that, now that's entirely possible because the Chinese could literally surround this thing. It's pretty much in the middle of a large, I guess you could say, bay or an inlet. And so they could literally surround this thing and just practically seize it without too much of a problem, honestly. They could do that a lot easier and a lot quicker than they ever could try and take Taiwan. So if they did something like that, of course the Taiwanese would probably do something in response to it. I'm not really sure what. It's not like they could launch an invasion of mainland China. That's out of the picture, especially considering the position and technological level of their military. So I don't really know what they would do about it, but they would probably try and hold a staunch defense of the island, and then the United States would probably step in and start providing military support to the Taiwanese, because then at that point it would most likely become a war. It's economic and trade consequences, though, when you think about that, that's kind of a little bit of a difficult one, because I'm not sure if the United States would like to do that. If we did, the price of consumer goods would rise unbelievably here in the United States, but it would also wreck the Chinese economy as well. So I'm not really sure if we would do that or not, but I thank you very much for the support. I hope that kind of does answer the question, at least in what I'm thinking a little bit, and I'm kind of on the fence with the economic sanctions and the economic actions, because I'm just not really sure about that, because there's a lot involved with doing that. The United States could really throw itself through the ringer doing something like that. So I hope I've been able to answer the question at least in a way, and I thank you very much once again for the support, trademarks and patents. It's been an incredibly long time since you've thrown in a super chat, and it's cool to know that you're still here, you're still enjoying this channel, and that you're helping us to keep the thing running. I thank you so much for it. It means a lot to both Matthew and me, and it's cool to have you around and asking questions, and once again helping us to keep this thing going again. And so with that, I hope we've been able to answer that question, and we are on to the next one.
And that was our last super chat for the moment. So moving on to our live chat, we have a question from Buffalo Bob, who says, do you think that about 30 to 40% of the Russians' army equipment is now gone?
30 to 40%. I would say yes. That seems like a fairly reasonable number, especially based off of the tank losses and maybe even the APC losses as well. And so my answer to that would be yes. I think it's close to 30 or 40%. And so with that, I hope we've been able to answer that question, and we're on to the next one.
And next up, we have a question from, well, actually, before we move on, let me address the poll that I also forgot about. I've been forgetting about polls like crazy tonight. The question was, which conflict or potential conflict is more important to the global order? And you had to pick one or the other on this poll. And it looks like the Ukraine-Russia war won out at 53%, and Taiwan and China conflict is at 47%. So it was a pretty tough poll. It's kind of hard to say which one's the more important one. And I'm actually going to reserve judgment on it for now. Enforcer, do you have any thoughts about it?
I'm going to not comment on that. Honestly, I feel like they would both be equal. But due to the fact that the Taiwanese produce pretty much all of the computer chips around the world, it would be incredibly serious if that was to be destroyed. But still, I think the Ukraine-Russian war is about as important to the stability and the, I guess you could say, geopolitical situation in Europe as Taiwan is to the geopolitical situation in East Asia. So with that, we'll move on to the next question.
And next up, we have a question from KPX 1138, who says, what have we heard about massive troop movements, 100,000 to 200,000, to the Chinese coast? This would be a clear indication of impending invasion except without the 1,000 landing ships needed.
Is he saying that that has happened or will it happen?
Let's see. He's asking, have we heard about the massive troop movements happening to the Chinese coast? And if that would happen, that would be a clear indication of an impending invasion.
Yes, it would be. If there's a large troop movement there, that would be indicative of it. But at the same time, large troop movements can also be indicative of training exercises and war games, which the Chinese are operating right now all around Taiwan. So it could mean that. It did mean that in the Ukraine-Russian war, but at the same time, it may just be trying to panic people and freak them out, and then end up doing a war game. That's kind of like the ultimate cop-out that a lot of countries pull. And so with that, I hope that does address the question and the comment, and we're on to the next one.
And next up, we had one more super chat come in, this time from NOYDB, who puts in a $3 donation and says, Enforcer, did you ever watch Stripes? It has the most realistic battle scenes ever in a Cold War movie. You promised.
I'm not sure if I promised NOYBD, but I have not been able to watch Stripes. I've been, of course, I hate to say this. I hate that this is always what I have to say is kind of an excuse. But I am incredibly busy all the time with college and also the streams. And so, unfortunately, I haven't been able to watch that recently. There's just not enough time in a day for me to do that kind of stuff, especially what we've had going on in the background, which I still don't want to say because of privacy reasons. And also, another thing I'd like to say, just so that way we can clear the waters on this, is I've seen this has kind of died down, but I'd also like to address this to everyone who still asks about it a little bit. Is that we've given up on the sign my rocket thing altogether. We had someone reach out who claimed they were with them. We have never gotten a response back from them. They said they were waiting for more inventory. Never got a response back from them after that. And so we've by and large just given up on it. We can't even, and there's a whole bunch of other things going on in the background, but unfortunately that won't be able to happen. But also to answer your question again, NOYBD, I will try and look into that and watch it. But as far as I was able to find on a Google search, it seems to be some kind of a comedy flick with a famous comedian, and I forgot his name, but I do know his face. But with that, I hope that does answer the question.
Enforcer, he actually just said, I'm lying. It's a comedy, and I just want to give you 5 Canadian.
Well, that's fine, NOYBD, and I will look into it. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and I thank you so much once again for the support.
All right, and we actually have another super chat that just came in. This time it's a $10 donation from IVDV, who says, I don't have a question, but I have a message. I am from Slovakia, a country next to Ukraine. Russia invaded my country in '68, and then it was a nightmare. This time, we just stopped them. They are just orcs. Thank you all.
And thank you so much for the support, IVDV. And I do have to say that's a nice little message. Slovakia is a neat little country. We're actually in Google Street View right now in Bratislava, and I would love to do this a little bit more. I hope you all enjoy this because I'm always curious about what these towns look like, and I always want to get a good idea of what at least the capital city of these countries look like. Actually got some nice buildings here. Oh, cool, look at that. Anyways, moving on from that. I do agree that did happen to Slovakia in 1968. I believe that was actually the Czechoslovakian Uprising of 1968 that was put down viciously by the Soviet Union's military, which a lot of people claim that the Soviet Union was not imperialist, and the Soviet Union in fact used that as a strike against the United States, saying that we were imperialist scum, but funnily enough, what they were doing against the Czechoslovakians at the time was pretty imperialist. So with that, I hope that does address the message in a way, and I do have to say it's an incredibly good one. And based off of the lessons that a lot of Eastern European countries learned during their time as Soviet puppets and slaves, pretty much, a lot of y'all never want to see the day where the Russians are on y'all's borders, and I entirely agree that if I was in y'all's situation, I definitely wouldn't want to be in that situation either. And so I thank you so much for the support, and I hope that the world continues to provide support to Ukraine and make sure that day where the Russians reign supreme over Eastern Europe never happens again. And so with that, we are on to the next question, and thank you so much once again for the support.
And next up, we have a $5 super chat from Chris Webb, who puts in some Ukrainian, which says, Shcho tise Yuliublena pizza. I just butchered that badly, but at least I gave it a shot.
Wait a
And
minute,
it
wait a minute,
means, what is your
wait.
favorite
Why,
pizza?
how in the world did you actually learn how to pronounce that?
We just know things here. No, not really. I use Google Translate.
Okay, I was about to say, I was like, there is no way that you've kept it from me that you actually learned how to read at least, a very broken up Cyrillic. I was like, there is no way, because I was reading that and I was like, pizza. I could see that at the end. I was like, it's pizza. But you blew me away when you did that. I was like, what? But what is my favorite pizza? Oh, that's a tough one, you see, because there's so many good pizzas out there, and I don't ever like to pass judgment on a single one because depending on the day and what you're feeling, it can all be good or bad. Like, for example, I know that this may get a lot of people riled up, but I actually ate Hawaiian pizza about a week ago, and I usually keep my comments neutral on Hawaiian pizza because I know a lot of people either love it or hate it. But honestly, I ate it and I liked it. I mean, like, the sweet pineapple was in contrast to the ham and the pepperoni that was on it. And so I thought it was good. I mean, like, that was just me. There's also a whole bunch of other pizzas I like. I love barbecue chicken pizza and Italian style pizza with like peppercini peppers on it. I think those taste good. Or yellow peppers, banana peppers, those are good as well. But really, I like all kinds of pizza, honestly. Whatever you're willing to put in front of me, as long as it's actually a good make of pizza, I will eat it for the most part. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. And I hope that does answer the question in a way, because pizza is delicious. I think it's one of the best tasting foods out there, I guess you could say. It's a food I really like. And also, pizza is a very healthy food to eat because it hits all of the basic food groups that one should, consume to be healthy. It has dairy, it has grain, it has a vegetable in it through the sauce. It has everything. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the question. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And at least that's the excuse we're going with, Enforcer. Pizza is healthy, and that's why we eat it so much. But even if it wasn't healthy, guess what? We love the way pizza tastes, and we're eating it anyway. So thank you very much for the support. And moving on, we have actually two more super chats that have come in here. We have a $50 super chat from Kevin Stevens, who says, I am a regular and just started supporting financially because I like the changes made and how you started the news faster. Although I like the music, I've heard it enough.
Well, I thank you very much for the support, Kevin. And I hate to say it, but the changes that were made to tonight's second stream are a temporary thing. We have to play the waiting room music because I know that some people don't like that, but please allow me to explain, and hopefully you'll see where we're coming from and why we do that. For the longest time, we used to have a waiting room that just sat around for 20 minutes, and then we started the stream instantly after that waiting room was up long enough and people could hop in, and we would start the news after that. And the reason why we do this is because a lot of people love to watch these streams live and like to be here from when the very first bit of news is covered. And so we did, for a short while, it was like 4 or 5 days straight, we would start the stream instantly. Like we would put it live, we would roll that intro song, the Ukrainian anthem, and then the stream would begin and the news would be covered. And a lot of people actually like that less than us doing the waiting room. And so after that, we then brought the waiting room back and we would play the music. And of course, I try and change up the selection every once in a while so it is at least nice to listen to. And so we just kind of do that as a way for everyone to be here for the first bit of news. So unfortunately, that will be staying around. Of course, if you would like to avoid that, just make sure to hop on at 10:10 Eastern time, because that's when the actual show starts, when we actually start talking and stuff. But I do understand that some people do like it and some people don't like it. But I hope you understand the reason why we keep on doing that, and we haven't really stopped it. But also, I thank you so much for the support. And it is cool to hear that you are a regular. And I noticed that was the first time that you have supported the channel, at least as far as I've been able to remember or see. And I thank you so much for helping us to keep this thing running, because without viewers like you, it's not possible for us to do what we do. And so with that, I hope that has answered the question. And thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, for, I believe, our final super chat of the night, a $6 donation from Rick George, who says, what you never seen, Stripes. Please don't tell me you haven't seen Caddyshack, Ghostbusters, Groundhog Day, etc. Bill Murray.
Oh, man. Oh, man, Rick, you put me in a hard situation. I don't lie. And so I got to tell you the truth. I have not seen Stripes. I've not seen Caddyshack. Oh man, I hate this. You're really throwing me through the ringer here. I haven't seen Ghostbusters or Groundhog Day. Haven't seen any of them. I kind of grew up not really watching a lot of TV, or at least a lot of TV, like as in movies. Matthew and me actually just watched, as far as I remember as a kid, we just watched a lot of SpongeBob SquarePants, the Jetsons, and the Flintstones. And that's really all we watched. I mean, like, as far back as I remember, that's it. I mean, like, we maybe watched How It's Made. That's about as far out of the norm we would go. But I hate to say that we haven't watched any of that, Rick. But I do thank you very much for the support, and you got me. You literally got me right there. I have not seen a single one of those in their entirety. Maybe clips of them, but not the whole movie. And so with that, we're going to move on to the live chat questions. We're going to answer about 5 of them, 5 to 10 of them due to time constraints. And also Greenwave, to start off with the first comment we're going to be addressing from the live chat. We are not too young to have not watched those movies, because I have seen other movies that are old, like Casablanca. I've also seen The Longest Day, The Green Berets. I've seen a lot of movies that John Wayne's in. Honestly, John Wayne is not that great of an actor, honestly, because he talks like this in every movie he plays in, Pilgrim. And, you know, like, you can only get away with that so long until it just becomes flat and bland. But still, you know, I'm young enough to have not watched those movies, of course, when they came out fresh, but at the same time, have watched some old movies. It's just sadly I haven't really delved into a lot of them. So with that, we're now going to move on to the next live chat question or comment.
All right, and next up, we have a question from, guess who? Pakatane, who says, Enforcer, what happens when Russia suddenly and catastrophically collapses? Will Putin escape and hide, or will Russian territories dissolve, attack each other, and who will protect and remove the nukes?
Great question. The Russian Federation probably will not collapse beyond the state it's currently in. Culturally, while the eastern side of the country is far more, I guess you could say, different ethnically, culturally it's pretty similar, because the Soviet Union did a pretty good job at pretty much eliminating culture by and large from the common people. So by and large, it's all one kind of cultural unit, so there's really no way for this thing to break up any further, rather than Chechnya or Dagestan. That's the only place I could see splitting up a little bit further. So, by and large, I would believe out of those options, Putin would most likely flee the country and try and escape to one that is supportive of Russia. Not a lot of places to go in that regard. Maybe China, but that's kind of a little bit of a stretch. So I think he would largely try and flee the country, and then a new government would take charge. And I think the nuclear weapons would stay. No person in charge of the Russian government is ever going to give up the nukes. That's really the only thing that stops Russia from getting steamrolled, and so they would keep them. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, Pakatani. Those are some really good questions right there, and I hope I was able to answer them fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have another super chat from NOYDB, who puts in another $3 donation and says Caddyshack is a must watch. It's about a group of young war reenactors who saved America through their knowledge of obscure military information.
Okay.
That sounds like an interesting movie. That doesn't fit the description or the title, Caddyshack, though.
That does not. NOYBD, you're lying to me. Don't
He's
do
trolling.
That.
He's trolling.
He's trolling. Ban him. I'm just kidding, but I know this NOYBD.
He's a bot.
He's a bot. I know this enough
Look.
I know this enough NOYBD to know that is certainly not what Caddyshack is about. It's about a gopher on a golf course and they're trying to kill it. But I do thank you very much for the support. I have heard enough about the movie to know exactly what it's about, but I've never seen the entirety of the thing. But I do thank you so much for the support, NOYBD. It does help us out a lot, and it is pretty interesting to hear you come up with that one. It sounds a lot like what we do on this channel. Also, someone said John Wayne only won an Oscar for True Grit. Wow. I guess that says a lot about what people thought in the day of his acting career, too. And also, on top of that, you know, in Full Metal Jacket, they even made fun of John Wayne there, and he was still around. So that kind of gives an idea of everyone was kind of tired of that John Wayne stuff, Pilgrim. Anyways, we're on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have one more super chat, this time from Anthony Dobson, who puts in a $5 donation and says, fun fact, the Tuva is claimed by Taiwan.
Tuva? You're talking about Tanu Tuva? If you're talking about Tanu Tuva, I'll have to look into that one a little bit. But I do thank you very much for the support. I hope that does adjust the comment. And thank you very much once again for the support. But I don't know. I'll have to look into that one. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again, Anthony Dobson, for being a veteran of the Lee Spring Army.
All right. And moving back into our live chat questions, up next we have a question from Karen Vaughn, who says, if Taiwan is China's, do they collect taxes, income taxes? And I'm just curious. And to be honest, let me get rid of that chat bot real quick.
I saw
There
it.
we
I
go.
saw
Got
it.
rid of
Man.
that.
It's there. We got one. We finally got one.
It's a different one this time. But anyways, CamBot equals 1, just for the record. And also, to address Karen Vaughn's question, I don't even know if China collects income taxes in their country. I'm not sure if that's the way their government works, and I'm sure the enforcer knows, though, because he's the walking encyclopedia.
And as the walking encyclopedia, the all-knowing knowledge of the world within the spans of my cranium, I have to say I have no idea about that. So we're going to Google that real quick and see. ROC income tax. The return of capital. That sounds like a great country. Yes, I live in the return of capital. But let's pull up Taiwan. Well, maybe that'll give us a better answer because no one types in Republic of China or ROC. They actually have income tax. It looks like for your first $540,000, of course I'm kidding, this is actually in Taiwanese currency, which is not as valuable per unit as the US dollar, is 5%. It looks like their highest tax bracket, let's look at this real quick. Their highest tax bracket is 45%. Which would flip out which would actually flip people out here in the U.S. And as someone who has to pay taxes, I'm not a big fan of paying taxes. And so that would flip me out. But still, it's kind of interesting to see their tax brackets and how they're broken down. So yes.
It's not too far off from ours, actually.
It's not too far off. And I have to say, y'all, it does, if the government is spending taxes, well, it makes sense. But at the same time, it always hurts to have to pay the tax man the bit of taxes. Everyone in the world can agree with that. I hope everyone can. But with that, we'll say the Republic of China does have income taxes. There's the bracket right there for you to see. And the PRC income tax, I don't know if they take income tax or not. What? The People's Republic of China, the communist system, takes taxes. What don't you think, like, as a communist country, at least a communist country as they call themselves, you would think that they would already have deducted the taxes from their wages and given them like an allowance, pretty much, not an actual wage or a salary that they then have to pay taxes out of. Let's look at their tax system. Nope. Cookies, I don't do cookies. Let's go down here. Ow, my back. Let's see here. So they pretty much got the exact same one as the Republic of China. At least in the percentages taken. But with that, I hope that does answer the question, at least in a way. I can't really comment on it too much, but there are your tax brackets. They do both take income taxes. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have another super chat. We have one from IVDV once more, who puts in a $10 donation and says, "Hi, Enforcer and everyone here. My question is, do you think NATO should be more bold and help Ukraine more and faster than it is happening right now?"
Yes, I do think so. It's not necessarily a point of trying to show our support and our care for Ukraine. We've already done that. It's more about trying to end this war faster. And I think we definitely do that by sending over more aid and support, and also yanking more Ukrainians out of Ukraine and bringing them over here into Western nations to train them in a higher volume and then send them back into Ukraine with that knowledge. I think if we did more of that, this war could end sooner and we could see less suffering and less death in Ukraine, and pretty much get things back to normal, hopefully sooner. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and I also thank you so much for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have another super chat from NOYDB, who puts in another $3 donation and says, "Team America, it's about two young brothers trying to start a broadcast career just before one of them heads off to law school. It's gripping. That doesn't fit the title either.
Well, thank you very much for the support. And if it is that, it does sound pretty interesting. But I thank you so much for the support once again. And I like the jokes where you're trying to like just make the movie titles associated with what we're doing. It's pretty funny in a way. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And next up, we have a question from, let's see here, Numb Thumbs, who says, since the Senate just approved Finland and Sweden, how long will it take for them to officially join?
I'm not exactly sure about the bureaucracy of NATO and how long it takes for them to move through that process. And there's also the fact that NATO may be waiting for the Russians to do something to them, and then step back and say, we really had no involvement in that, and that wasn't really going anywhere. They may be doing something like that as a political play, so that way NATO doesn't get dragged into World War III. But who knows? I'm not really sure, and sadly, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one entirely, because I'm not really sure if I ever could give an answer, and it depends on a lot of things as well. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have a question from Bernard Ackel, who says, Enforcer, I believe that Putin and China mutually made pact and plan, doing what they're both doing with Ukraine and Taiwan. And if Russia had taken Ukraine fast, China would have already attacked Taiwan. What are your thoughts?
They did make a little bit of a pact at the Olympics from what we had heard, but I don't think the Chinese ever really intended on doing anything with Taiwan because that could throw off their economic expansion model, which is not what the Russians are into. They're more into a military expansion model. So I think that the Chinese kind of played the Russians and never really planned on trying to invade Taiwan this year. Because even with the Speaker of the House traveling there, it looks like nothing's really going to come out of it. And so with that, I hope that does answer the comment. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Santiago Flores, who says, Enforcer, they are reporting that Macedonia donates some Su-25 to Ukraine. Do we have any confirmation?
Unfortunately, we do not. I haven't heard any news about that, and of course, we always wait for video and picture evidence of something like that. And sadly, we haven't got that from any country that's been pledging aircraft so far, or the I guess you could say proof that they've ever arrived in Ukraine. Sadly, so I hope that answers the question, and we're on to the next one.
And next up, we have yet another super chat. This time it's from John Boyer, who puts in a $33 donation, who says, Evening, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt. If the Russian Black Sea Fleet is turning tail, maneuvering, and running further away to safer distances, will they thereby likely be exposing Crimea, the Ukrainian people rock, and Slavo-Ukraine?
And I thank you so much for the support, John Boyer. And also to answer those questions, if the Black Sea Fleet is maneuvering and running further and further away from the coastline, maybe they may be putting Crimea into greater jeopardy. But at the same time, if the Ukrainians want to smack missiles down in there, they could just smack them straight north to south, which pretty much puts the path of that missile in line for Russian ground air defense forces, but not the naval air defense forces. But that could be opening up Crimea to be a little bit of a target, even for a ground push. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question in a way, because without the protection of the Black Sea Fleet, that may be very well a possibility. But I don't really know where the Black Sea Fleet has to go. Maybe Novorossiysk? Maybe that's the only other harbor around that could support the fleet, but hardly even at that. So I wonder what they'll do if they really leave Sevastopol and have to go elsewhere. But with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you once again for the support, John Boyer, and being a longtime member of the Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have yet another super chat from Will Riley, who puts in a $20 donation this time and says, Dick Cheney wants to start a coalition of the awesome to defend the good people of Earth. Mr. Cheney has recruited Chuck Norris. Who do you think should be added to this awesome coalition?
Well, if I had to add anyone to that awesome coalition, I would have to add... Well, let me think. I don't really know any modern movie characters to add. So let me think.
Pingu.
Pingu, yeah, we'll add Pingu. We'll also add... Let's see. Who else? Oh, who would
John
be...
Wayne?
Yeah, he would definitely give it to those Russian bastards. So yeah, John Wayne.
Mike Tyson?
Man, Mike Tyson, he really bust some ass, you know what I mean? He just give him the old 1-2. So yeah, Mike
Arnold?
Tyson. As the governor of California, I have to say that I'd love to be a part of this coalition.
And he just went through all the voices for that coalition. So there you go, Will Riley.
Wait a minute. Aldo, I gotta see if I can do this one. I pity the fool that messes with this coalition. I don't know if I did that one good. I don't know if that was a good Mr. T, because I've hardly heard him speak before. Oh man, I saw one from Will Riley, Matthew. I don't know if I can do that one or not.
Corn Pop.
Yeah.
Corn Pop. Oh, okay. I know what he's talking about now.
Oh man, okay, I gotta let y'all know. I do impersonations of pretty much everyone I've ever heard. That includes political figures as well. And that includes everyone. When I say that, that means everyone. But I don't do that on stream because I feel like if I did that, some people would obviously take that the wrong way, and we don't want to do that because I would do it equally, but at the same time, you know, someone would see one of them at a passing glance and not the other, be like, oh, you just broke the rules. So anyways, we're going to move on. We're not going to do that one, but I still think that would be a funny one to do if in the future maybe. But with that, we are on to the next one. Now, I hope that answers your question, Will Riley, about who we're going to add to that coalition. And so with that, we are on to 2 more questions from the live chat, and after that, we'll be rounding out tonight's stream.
All right. And next up, we have a question from Phantom Shaman, who says, Enforcer, what impact will the Chechen Uprising and the Armenian-Azerbaijan conflicts have on Russia and Ukraine?
Can you reread that one real quick?
They said, Enforcer, what impact will the Chechen Uprising and the Armenian-Azerbaijan conflicts have on Russia and Ukraine?
You were really asking the complex geopolitical question right there, because I would say that it's more of a continuation of what happened with the Chechens in the 90s that kind of just flooded over into Armenia and Azerbaijan. And that's been something that's that's a little bit more complicated than what I just explained by far. There's kind of enclaves of, I believe if I remember correctly, Armenians in Azerbaijan, but I can't really remember it for certain. So unfortunately, I'd have to read up on that and circle back to that to give you an answer, at least a good one on that. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that, because if I tried to answer it right now, I'd kind of be walking in half-cocked. So with that, we're going to move on to the next one, and I'm sorry I wasn't really able to answer that question.
All right, and next up, we have a question from Herp Derp NV, who says, what effect do you think multispectral camouflage screen development, like the newish US ULCAN's Increment 1 netting, will have on aerial surveillance?
That is an extraordinarily good question. The problem is I don't know about that exact camouflage netting. If it has some kind of a thermal, like, I guess you say, thermal dissipating ability where it's able to dissipate heat signatures, then that'll have a lot of impact on especially aircraft targeting ground targets, because by and large in the modern day, due to how far away aircraft fly from the front lines when they fire off these weapons, you pretty much have to use some kind of a thermal imaging system or something similar to it to be able to find these vehicles. And so if it does something like that, I would assume that it would definitely make it much more difficult for enemy countries to pull off sorties on any kind of vehicles using that kind of netting. So I hope I was able to answer that question on the seam of my pants. I don't really know a lot about it, but I hope that kind of gives my way in on, if I was correct, what that camouflage netting will most likely do. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and I thank you very much for the support, and I hope I was able to answer that question.
And next up, we have a question from Pakatang, who says, Enforcer, when Russia suddenly collapses, will bordering countries like Armenia, Baltic states, China, Finland, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, etc., quickly do a land grab? What is the president?
No, they would not quickly do a land grab. That's something that certainly wouldn't happen. The main reason why I'm saying that is because whenever a country collapses or goes through any tumultuous time, actually that's usually the time that everyone gives that country the most space. And that always seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? You know, you're like, well, what in the world? Like, why? But it is. When the Soviet Union collapsed, everyone literally just gave the Soviet Union and well, the former Soviet Union and all of the republics and countries it turned into, a massive load of space, and we really did nothing with them for a couple of years. So if something like that happened within Russia, all of those countries would probably just sit back, maybe pull a couple of strings here and there, but they just wait and see what would come out of all of it before they did anything. So I hope that does answer the question, at least based off of the historical context we had with the collapse of the Soviet Union. And I thank you so much for the support, and I hope that was able to answer the question. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And for our final live chat question of the night, because I've run out of questions, we have one from Sally Lulls, who says, Enforcer, could we please have a total on the amount donated so far? I'm wondering if we have hit 400,000.
I will try and get a total for y'all soon, probably tomorrow, if I have the time. I think there's an essay due tomorrow, but then again, that doesn't take all day, but, you know, still. Anyways, I will try and get a number for y'all. The last number I had before the past two fundraisers was 366,151. I haven't added the past two fundraisers to that, but actually, since that's just two fundraisers, I think I could do that right now. So let me go do that real quick. Monetization, giving... the past two fundraisers. Geez, I got to go through and cut them up by date. Let me check this one out real quick. When was this one run? July 24th to 25th. That sounds like one of the last ones. So that was 9,100. And then I think IRC was one of the last ones too. July 3rd, July 4th. Nope, that was a good while ago. Doctors Without Borders. It was one of the smaller ones, I think. It may have been this one. Let me check. To August 1st. Yep, that was one of the recent ones. So let's add 8,386. Let me put this in my calculator real quick and crunch these numbers. 366, 151, and then plus 8,386.95 equals... Then go up here to this one, and then 9,141. So right now, as an exact total, we, excuse me, we have raised $383,638.36. Just about. So it's actually really close. We're only about $15,000 away from reaching $400,000 total. So... with that in mind, we are getting really close. It's still a little ways away, just a little. It's probably two whole fundraisers away at this point. Because honestly, while we still surpass our goals, the amount we raise on fundraisers has dropped drastically, and I credit that to people to giving so much support at the beginning of the war. But still, it's impressive to think that we raise $9,000 a fundraiser anyways. But so I think that'll be about two fundraisers away. So by the end of this month, I feel like we'll have probably surpassed $400,000, but still, that is really impressive to think about, and I thank you all so much for helping us to get to that point. And so with that, I hope that has answered your question, and I'd also like to give a quick credit to Jerry S. for sending in a $20 super chat, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't end this stream tonight without recognizing you and your support to this channel, and so thank you so much once again, Jerry S., for helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I thank you all so much for watching once again. It's been an absolute pleasure to cover the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. And if you are new to this channel, I highly suggest you make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as these streams run every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Mondays, where we will cover the past 24 hours of the war. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. Thank you. Good night, and take care, and I'll see you all tomorrow.